guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. How you doing in your first clan versus clan tournament, or how have you done by the time this video goes live? It will be over. The first one will be over. I'll probably make a whole video talking about my experience in that, so you know, stay tuned. For those of you watching in the future, sorry for mentioning it, but hey, at the time of this recording, it's our first ever clan versus clan tournament. Today we're going to talk about, well, I actually was looking back at my old content, what haven't I covered in a while here, and something that's been almost a year is our most versatile champions in the game. And suffice it to say, when making the list for this video, man, a lot has changed. A lot of amazing champions have been released. So what I want to do is quickly go through my top 3 most versatile epics in every single faction in the game. So without further ado, we're going to try to be efficient here on the channel. Again, versatility is a huge factor when upgrading a champion, right? It's a big thing that you should be considering when you're trying to decide, okay, which champion am I going to invest in next? Which champion am I going to max out? Am I going to, you know, work up all of that food to sacrifice? It's a lot that goes into not just, you know, upgrading a champion, but then ascending and then, you know, building up all the artifacts. So you have to choose wisely. So we always talk about endgame versatility, value over replacement, and most importantly, or at least equally as important, the versatility of a champion. How many different areas in this game can they help you out? So all these champions are champions that I believe can help you out in a bunch of different areas. I'm not going to talk about voids because, well, they're obviously all pretty much inherently versatile, but right, they're neutral affinity, so they can help you really anywhere in the game, especially the good ones. So today we're going to focus on just the, you know, the Spirit, Force, and Magic Affinity champions. If you want me to do my favorite void epic champions, I'm happy to do that in a separate video. Stag Knight obviously has a decreased speed on his A1, has a decreased defense and decreased attack at 95% chance on his A2, and then has an increased accuracy on one ally for each debuff resisted. So really good champion, very high base HP, very high speed. I mean, if you own Stag Knight, I'm gonna guess odds are you're using him, right? I hope so. I hope so, because he's that good. I put my Stag Knight, as a lot of you guys know, in a shield set to help me out as well, to add extra versatility onto my team. Of course, that's optional if you have the luxury of being able to do that. He has the HP, in my estimation, to warrant that set choice. Archmage Helmet, I am going to include Doom Tower champions. You get them from normal Doom Tower, so eventually, hopefully, you'll be able to farm these champions up. Kind of like Stag Knight, Archmage Helmet is one of my favorite epic champions in the entire game. He has a very high base speed at 108, gotta love it. And then his A3 is really good. Increased speed, crit rate, and crit damage on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. What a great ability to have. And then he has a very dependable 3-turn stun. 75% chance at placing a stun on a 3-turn. With a pretty decent attack, this dude can put out some damage too, guys, and after attacking, decreases turn meters of each enemy without that stun by 20%. This guy's really good. One of my favorite, and in my opinion, one of the strongest epic champions inside the entire game. He also has a speed aura in arena battles by 17%. Very good, and he's immune to turn meter decreasing effects. You gotta love it. And now we have a brand new champion. I don't even have him yet at the time of this recording, but I think he's another really OP champion. Very cool looking, and it's Gizcard the Sagiled. Call him good old Jizzy. Has a decreased attack on his A1. On his A2, same kind of icon as Drexstar Blood Twin, huh? An AoE provoke on a 3-turn cooldown. Also a shield on himself. And then on the A3, increased defense and increased attack on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Thank you very much. A very legendary-esque kit on this dude. Fills his champion's turn meter by 15% whenever they are attacked by an enemy under provoke or increased attack buff. This guy has a really good kit. Very high base defense for an epic champion, almost 1500. And of course, his damage is based on defense. This guy can help you out almost anywhere in the game. Very nice to have that increased attack and increased defense on a 3-turn on the same ability, on the same skill. Very good champion. They just added him at the time of this recording. Royal Guard, well, he's a beast. He hits very hard. There you go, that's Royal Guard.
Write it down and keep it for future reference.
Now, all jokes aside, attack in dungeons by 35%, one of the best in the game, certainly among epics, and then has a 4 times at random with decreased speed and decreased turn meter on a 4-turn cooldown with the big version of decreased attack on his A1. What can I say? Royal Guard is my most used champion according to my 2-year anniversary highlight video, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are in the same boat. I chose Thanasil over Vergus because I think that having the increased defense and a really solid heal on a 3-turn cooldown, this is based on this champion's max HP. So you build him with a lot of HP, you got a great heal, you got increased defense on a 3-turn, and then you get that very high base speed again at 105. We're covering a lot of great champions here because of how fast they are as well. So Thanasil to me is a very unique champion. The rest of his kit is kind of meh, but man, Oakskinned is a very, very valuable and I think underrated ability, an underrated champion overall inside the game. And then look no further here. Again, Vergus is really, really good. Wanted to include him, but how can I choose him over Tyrell? Personally, I cannot. He has the defensive aura, which is going to help you pretty much everywhere in the game. Not just clan boss, but as a consistent debuffer and an aura lead in pretty much anywhere in the game. Tyrell is an OG champion in this game, but he's still very good. Can help you, again, anywhere. Not just clan boss, just as an aura lead, anywhere that you need a little bit of help with progression, Doom Tower, you name it. Again, it is all battle, so that's good in Doom Tower. It's good everywhere. Obviously in High Elves Faction Wars, a lot of people even use him as their debuffer in Arena because it doesn't matter that it's on a 4-turn cooldown, his decreased defense, when, you know, all you need is essentially your nuker to go. So that is Tyrell. Those are my 3 choices as most versatile on High Elves. I didn't really talk about where you could use Royal Guard, but I think you guys can know basically against any boss, right? Any boss that is susceptible to damage dealt by enemy max HP. Sacred Order is, we're going to talk about the dude that I still don't have, Deacon Armstrong, my most wanted epic champion. After Jizzy, though, I don't know. It's kind of close, though. It's kind of close now. He was really good. Has a leech on his A1, which I love that they're adding all these leech A1s. I think the leech is an awesome debuff to have as kind of an addition to already good kit. An AoE decreased defense on a 3-turn cooldown. Welcome to the team. A lot of AoE defense breakers being added to the game recently. We've seen, you know, half a dozen of them in the last couple months. So it's really nice to see. Deacon Armstrong is the best of them, or one of the best. Right up there with Ugo, maybe, and Duck. There's so many. There's so many. Fills the turn meter of all allies by 15%. Decreased turn meter of enemies by 15%. Grants an extra turn. Ergo, putting the A2 on a, you know, if it's on a 3-turn, it's on a 2-turn. It's on a 2-turn, it's on a 1-turn cooldown. It helps cycle the rest of his abilities. This guy is very, very good. Has speed in all battles by 19%. Man, I want him. Next up is another champion I don't have. Is Sanguinia, excuse me, on the A1, another fast champion and a lot of HP again, decent defense as well. So she has, their base stats are on point here. A 3-hitter on the A1, each has a 20% chance, 30 when booked, of decreasing the duration of 2 random buffs on the target by 1 turn. Yes, please. Has a block debuffs on all allies for 1 turn and a 15% continuous heal for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. I love block debuffs. Just one of the best, you know, buffs in the game. It's right up there. And continuous heal is an OP healing ability. I remember when I started playing this game, I was like, continuous 15%. Does 15%? That's it? 15% of their HP? Who cares? But man, that really, really adds up. Continuous heal, in a lot of ways, is just better than heal, straight up, you know? Sacrificial Limb, and again, it's 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Sacrificial Limb is a great ability. On a 4-turn cooldown when booked, attacks one enemy, has a 100% chance of transferring all debuffs from this champion to the target. Removes all debuffs from all allies except this champion. So she's transferring all her debuffs, and then she's removing all of your allies' debuffs. So a full-out cleanse on a 4-turn cooldown. I think she's one of the better champions added to the game, and kind of not a lot of people talk about Sanguinia. So I figured we'd give her a shout-out in today's video. A lot of great choices here. I decided to go with Hope. Another champion that people don't talk about enough, in my opinion. I feel like we're repeating ourselves quite a bit here, but a lot of HP, a lot of speed. The stats are on point. Has a block debuffs on the A1. On the A2, increase the duration of all buffs on all allies by 1 turn. Plays a shield buff equal to 25% of this champion's HP on all allies for 2 turns. So a solid 2-turn shield, and again, it's based on this champion's max HP, and she scales really, really well. You can stack a ton of HP onto Hope. And then an AoE attack, and then has a 75% chance of removing all buffs from all enemies on a 3-turn cooldown. Removing buffs from enemies is so crucial now, especially in Doom Tower waves, where it feels like every single enemy has 100 different amazing buffs. So having a debuff stripper on your team like Hope, like Madame Ceres, etc., will really help you out. It's going to go a long way. Next up is going to be Armina. You guys know I have a soft spot for Armina. One of the first new champions that I maxed out when I got her. I pulled her the first day. Has a stun on the A1. On the A2, again, an AoE decreased defense on a 100% clip at a 3-turn cooldown. Also also steals 7.5% of the turn meter from targets under that decreased defense debuff. I love having that crowd control built into the AoE attack, built into the AoE decreased defense. It's a great ability, right? On 3-turn cooldown. And then it decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 20%, and then has a 100% chance when booked of placing a stun debuff for 1 turn on enemies who have their turn meters fully depleted. Awesome. And then her Head of Steam, her passive, fills the champion's turn meter by 10% each time an enemy receives a stun debuff. I talked about this before, guys, but I put Armina on as my debuffer on a team with Scylla the Drakes and Archmage Helmet. It's like stun, boom, full turn meter. Stun, boom, full turn meter. It's really, really cool. And then she has that stun as well in her own kit. So I think Armina is just a tremendous champion inside the game. Next is going to be a Fokker. Beep! Fokker in the Fat. Man, these names lately, Plarium, you're killing me.
No, actually, it's not me. It is you.
I'm gonna get demonetized. Attacks one enemy, has a decreased defense on the A1. Love to see it, 50% clip at landing. Brand of Shame on his A2, HP burn, and 2 poisons for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Great against bosses. And then Beatdown, increased crit rate, increased crit damage on all allies except this champion for 3 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. We love to see it. Then allies except this champion will attack 1 target enemy. So a new ally attack champion added to the game. And again, here we're covering a lot of new champions. You see why I thought this video warranted, redoing it, right? I feel like it's justified because of so many new champions that are so good being added to the game. Deflects 20% of all incoming damage this champion receives onto all allies, dispersed equally. You love to see that too, because kind of squishy with a low base HP at 14k. Kind of a cool passive body block, right? Cool. All right, so there it is. That's the Fat Man. And then I want to go back old school here. Again, a number of solid choices here, but I decided to go with Hearten. Hearten is a daily log and reward champion, but don't devalue her just because she's free. She does have a good speed aura, all battles 19%, and then we have a decreased speed on the A1, and then we have Rally the Horde, fills the turn meter of all allies by 15%, and then places a 30% increased speed buff on all allies for 2 turns, similar to Apothecary. She has that ability, right? And then on her A3, attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance when booked, chance to decrease the turn meter by 15%. So she has a little bit of Shatterbones in her, a little bit of decreased turn meter on AoE, and then she has a little bit of Apothecary, other traditional speed boosters, Golden Reaper on the A2 and Rally the Horde. So a great increased speed option for your team, a little bit different and unique as compared to like an Apothecary type champion on your team. And again, that speed aura is money as well. So that's Hearten. Moving on to Ogryn Tribe. So speaking of Shatterbones, he's not in Shatterbones will not be featured, but he's a good champion, really good champion. So we have Ugo, who I mentioned as one of my favorite champions, recently added to the game. Very, very good champion. Start with the A1, has a leech, love it. On the A2, AoE decreased defense, and then kind of like Armina, she's bringing something in addition to that to the table as well. She has a 75% chance of placing a block buffs debuff for 2 turns. Chance increases for each alive enemy, or each enemy alive, as we also say. So really, really cool, right? I mean, what a great ability. Block buffs for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown alone with an AoE attack is a great ability, but she's also landing the big version of decreased defense, and then it's very consistent at landing both block buffs and decreased defense. I think that this ability is one of the better added to the game, in the last year. It's really, really good. A really solid decreased defense AoE, and I defy you to tell me anything otherwise in the comments below. Removes all hero reduction debuffs from all allies, and then removes another random debuff from all allies. Then heals all allies by 20% of this champion's max HP. So Ugo's Brew is a really solid heal. If all allies are dead, revives them. Why not? Just in case, break in case of emergencies ability. And the passive kind of plays along to those same kind of themes, right? Increased speed, block damage if she's the only champion left alive, so she can cycle to her A2 and then revive your allies. So I'm a big fan of Ugo. Man, this was actually a very difficult one to pick because you guys know I'm actually a big fan of Claude Beast Feeder. However, I decided to go with Grush the Mangler, another daily login reward champion on this list. This is a guy who's grown on me and grown on me and grown on me, guys. I'm starting to rely on, at first it was just like, do I want to add him to my Faction Wars team? And then it became like, do I want to add him to a bunch of different teams? Because he's really good support and a really good healer. Has a leech on the A1. We're talking about heals on his A3 on a 4-turn cooldown, attacks all enemies, then places a 15% continuous heal for 2 turns, and then places an additional 7.5% continuous heal on all allies for 1 turn if at least 1 enemy is hit with a critical hit. So we're getting 2 we're getting 1 2-turn continuous heal, big version, and then an additional baby heal on top of that. A very, very good ability, and it's an AoE attack as well. On the A2, it's an AoE decrease attack or decrease crit damage debuff based on defense. So 2 AoE attacks, both based on defense. They're not incredibly hard hitting, but he's bringing a lot to the table, guys. I think that Grush is a really, really cool champion. I'm glad that they added him as a daily login reward champion inside the game. You can use him anywhere that you need heals, anywhere that you need a lot of support in the game. Same thing goes, I'm not talking about where you can use these champions because I think it's pretty much evident. You know, if you need an AoE decreased defense, use Ugo. You know, she's your girl. You need someone with really good heals and remove some debuffs from your team, use Ugo. You need a good counterattack champion who's not Martyr or Valkyrie, use Skull Crusher. Also has a great ally attack, or ally protect, excuse me. Ally attack would be pretty OP though, right? But yeah, I mean, you put Skull Crusher in lifesteal. Not only is he helping you out against Clan Boss with that Ally Protect, the counterattack, unkillable on himself, but also helping you out in any other area where you just need, you know, chipping away at the Fire Knight shields, can help you there. Anywhere you need a lot of support or that counterattack to chip away, or you can pair him with a bunch of, similar to Ally Attack champions, you pair him with a bunch of heavy hitters on their A1s, and that ally, or why do I keep saying Ally Attack? That counterattack will really help you out, really adds up quickly, even though it's 75% of their normal damage. So Ally Attack, counterattack, same thing, right? Kinda, not really, kinda, sort of.
You know, I'm saying all this out loud and I probably shouldn't be.
Lizardmen. Lizardmen and Skinwalkers are both very weak, but I think that Jarag is very, very special champion. And again, dare I say underrated champion? I don't know. You guys be the judge, but he has an HP aura in all battles by 33%, super solid. Continuous heal buff on an ally for 1 turn whenever they lose 20% of their max HP in 1 hit. What a great, great, great passive ability. That's happening on passive, and there's no cooldown on it. It just happens all the time. Anytime you need it. Boom. Ally Protect and increase defense on all allies for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown, and then has a decreased attack on his A1. So a really, really solid champion. He's my favorite of the Lizardmen. However, Ox the Remembered here has a poison on his A1. Very good for Clan Boss. Very good. Attacks 1 enemy, heals all allies by 10% of their max HP. Heals each ally by an extra 2.5% for each debuff on the target. You guys can see why it makes a lot of sense to have him on a Clan Boss team on a 3-turn cooldown, and then has a decreased attack on all enemies for 2 turns. Also, it's a 100% chance when booked of decreasing each target's turn meter by 20%. Places a 30% decreased crit rate on the target for 2 turns if they have 50% or more turn meter after the turn meter decrease. So he's doing a lot here on this weight of Aeons on the A3 on a 3-turn cooldown. Also has a Steward of Time, increase the duration of 2 random debuffs on the attacker by 1 turn, and occurs once per hit. So again, increase the duration of 2 random debuffs, very, very advantageous against bosses, against longer battles where you really want those debuffs to stay on the boss, not just again Clan Boss, but also against Doom Tower bosses as well, depending on the affinity matchup. So Ox the Remembered is a very good champion. I decided to go with a 3rd champion. I mean, our options are kind of limited here, but Quargan the Crowned here is a interesting champion, in my opinion. Is he the most versatile in the game? I don't know, that can be argued, but still, on his A2 here, heals all allies on a 3-turn cooldown by 15% of their max HP, and places a shield buff equal to 15% of their max HP on all allies for 2 turns. So 2 out of every 3 turns, you're getting that nice, or decent heal, not nice, just average heal, and a shield. So if you need a shield champion, I mean, he's an option for you guys out there. He also has a 30% chance, make it a 50 when booked, of increasing the duration of a random buff on a random ally by 1 turn, okay. And then a Perfect Veil, and an increased attack buff for 2 turns on all allies whose attack is higher than their defense. So again, Perfect Veil, increased attack on all your attackers. Perfect to keep them alive. And then increased defense and a block debuffs for 1 turn on all allies whose defense is higher than their attack. So basically, what this specific type of champion needs the most, they're getting in this ability on a 4-turn cooldown. So I think that a lot of teams can kind of benefit from this attunement ability. Again, increased attack or increased defense, block debuffs, or perfect veil, keeping them alive, right? So I think he's a pretty good champion, and good speed as well. So if you're looking for kind of a versatile buffer on your team with some support, shield, and heal, I think he's not an awful option for you guys. And not a lot of people talk about him either. Skinwalkers, like I said, a pretty bad epic faction, with the exception of Steel Skull. He's the best in my opinion, one of the fastest epics in the entire game at 117 speed. Also has a poison on his A1, also has a remove all debuffs from one ally with a 40% heal, monster heal here on cleansing spell on his A2, and then increased defense on all allies for 2 turns, and then an AoE heal, 20% of their max HP, all on a 4-turn cooldown. This guy is very, very good for clan boss, very good for support in general, incredibly good for faction wars, and anytime the affinity is suitable to him, anytime you're not going against a bunch of magic champions, he can be a great support. Doom Tower, levels, floors, regular floors, not against bosses, or even against bosses if you need that cleanse. He's a good option for you guys. Steel Skull is definitely a very, very good champion. And then after that, well, it becomes a different story, right? I'm going to actually include a guy, one of the bears. Urson Ironhide is I think he's a good champion, right? I actually use him in Faction Wars on my main team, and I think that if you need an AoE decrease attack champion with some turn meter manipulation, he has also the cooldown manipulation on his A1. His passive has that turn meter. I feel like he's a decent option. His damage is based on defense. He doesn't have very high defense, but he's fairly easy to build to keep alive to help with progression. You do have to build him with a lot of defense and a lot of accuracy, and he's kind of slow, but I think he's pretty versatile because, again, if you're just looking for a little bit of turn meter manipulation and a decreased attack, then he's not the worst option in the world. He also has a decently hard-hitting AoE for a defense-based champion on a 4-turn cooldown on his A3. So that is the bear. Again, super versatile. You could argue that. I think the Taurus might be, at this point in the game, a little bit more versatile. He was a champion that nobody talked about for a while, but then this basically Toxic Nova, his A3, people started using it in Doom Tower, right? This champion receives damage equal to 99% of their current HP, places an unkillable buff on the champion for 2 turns, so you're getting 2 turns of unkillable on a 4-turn cooldown. Has an 80%, 100% when booked of placing 4 5% poison debuffs on all enemies for 2 turns. So he's keeping himself alive vis-a-vis the unkillable, and he's placing 4 poison debuffs, big versions of poison debuffs, and in the meantime, he can heal himself back up. Heals by 20% of the damage inflicted if the target has poison on his A1. So you get 2 turns, essentially, of him healing himself back up, so you can get that consistent, those consistent 4 poisons being placed every 4 turns, and then 2 turns left to heal him back up. He's a decent damage option if you're unable to keep a bunch of cold heart squishier champions alive because of that unkillable. So there you go. Those are my Skinwalker choices, guys. Moving on to orcs here. We have Duck the Pierced. I mean, this guy is really, really good. He is a new addition to the game. He has an AoE decreased attack and decreased defense on the same ability on a 3-turn cooldown at that. Very, very good ability in Lunatic Outburst. The damage is based on defense. So another debuffer whose damage is based on defense. And then he has a Provoke on a 4-turn cooldown. Places a Provoke debuff on 1 turn for the target enemy. Also has a 75% chance of placing a Provoke debuff for 1 turn on 2 random enemies. And makes himself unkillable with reflect damage. He's a champion that I lean on very heavily on my free-to-play account. What a great free-to-play champion to get your hands on, right? Next is going to be Zargala. She is a nuker extraordinaire. She also has a decreased defense. After the first hit, she has a 75% chance on 2 more hits on each target to land that big version of decreased defense. She's an OG. She's one of the faces of Raid Shadow Legends. She's very, very good. 2-turn cooldown. If it kills the enemy on Devastate, boom, she goes back into the crack armor ability. She's not the best nuker in the game, but the fact that she has a 3-hitter that deals decent damage with instant activation potential and the decreased defense makes her an incredible epic nuker slash debuffer all on the same champion. So big fan of Zargala. Now after this it came down to Sandlash Survivor versus Vrask. I'm actually going to give a little bit of love to Vrask because he can heal you. Doesn't matter the affinity matchup. He's a lot of HP. He every single attack, all you need to know, right? Heals all allies by 10% of his max HP when he inflicts a critical hit. So it's not based on the damage he's dealing. Anytime he's landing a crit, so you get him to 100% crit rate, you stack a bunch of HP, over 100k HP if you can do it, you're getting a 10k heal every single time he attacks. So Vrask is a very, very good healer. Not many champions in the game, only Skytouch Shaman comes to mind, that can keep up with that kind of alacrity of heals that he is putting out. Insane. Next is going to be Allure as we move on to Demon Spawn here, guys. I mean, the A1, that's all you need to know about Allure. One of the best turn meter manipulators inside the entire game, guys. 3 times at random, decreases the target's turn meter by 25% on each hit. The rest of the kit is all right. You know, with that high attack, some people think that she hits like a truck. She doesn't. She doesn't hit like a truck. She's not much of a nuker, but it doesn't matter. Even against anti-affinity matchups, this is still an insane ability. 75% chance, well, 3 independent 25% chances at, or 3 independent.
I don't know what we're talking about.
At decreasing target's turn meter by 25% on the critical hits. That is really, really good. And again, people even run her, even though it is on critical hit, people still even run her, you know, on anti-affinity matchups as well. Next up, we have Achak the Wenderin, a new champion in the game. Again, a champion I use a ton on my free-to-play account. On his A2, he has block debuffs on all allies and strengthen, granted on a 4-turn cooldown. But on his Frostfire Gale, it's an AoE attack. We have a 90% chance of placing a freeze debuff for 1 turn on enemies who have attack higher than defense, and then an HP burn on enemies who have, well, defense higher than their attack. So similar to Quargron or whatever the heck his name was, kind of what you need against the target, you have it in terms of debuffs instead of buffs on this occasion. Very, very good ability, and then great synergy between the passive. Heals all allies by 5% of their max HP every time an enemy under HP burn gets a turn, and then fills a turn meter of all allies by 10% every time an enemy under freeze gets a turn. And it gets better. He also has defense in all battles by 25%. Wow, what a big, big fan of this champion. Next up is going to be Akoth the Seared. Again, I told you guys we were going to include Doom Tower champions in this video. What a good champion. Damage is based on defense on this guy, so keep that in mind. Has a decreased crit rate on the A1. On the A2, an AoE HP burn. Chance of placing the HP burn are increased by 20 for each enemy alive. Imagine that in spiders. And then has an AoE attack with a 50% chance of increasing the cooldowns of all skills by 2 turns on enemies under HP burn debuffs. Also places a shield equal 20% of this champion's max HP on all allies for 2 turns. So we have the shield, we have the AoE 4-turn cooldown, and then we have the skills by 2 turns. It's like a little mini basher built into an already great champion, and then has a 10%, make it 25% chance of placing a fear debuff on an enemy for 1 turn whenever they receive damage from an HP burn debuff placed on themselves. Wow, man, that guy is doing a lot. I can't wait. He has HP All Battles Aura too. Can't wait to unlock this dude. He seems so good. Interested to see how hard he hits with the multipliers, but that will come in due time. Undead Horde, very difficult one. There's so many good champions, guys. I knew I had to include Mausoleum Mage. He has a 3-turn cooldown of increased crit rate, increased defense, and block debuffs. Wow, on a 3-turn cooldown, an amazing ability. And then he has the cleanse and the heal on his A3. This dude is bringing a ton to the table in terms of support, and he's pretty fast at 104 base speed. And I knew I had to include Seeker. You know, on this Tailwind, fills a turn meter of all allies by 30%, increase attack for 2 turns, and then grants an extra turn, has a provoke on the A1, has a heals his champion by 20%, and places an increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns when hit with a critical hit. That's a great ability. And then a decent arena aura lead for you guys too. 30% defense on a defensive team in the arena. Man, Seeker is just a class act. You can use him in the arena. You can use him, you know, for speed, basically anywhere, and increase attack in any dungeon in the game. And then you can also use him, obviously, in Clan Boss on unkillable teams like I do. He's on my main Clan Boss team. So what a great champion. Then third, again, this is tough. You guys know I love Dark Elhain. Gorgrab is so good, but I decided to go with Vogoth. I think that at the end of the day, if I had a draft, just independently picking these champions, I would go with Vogoth. Has a 3-time hitter on his A1. Each hit has a 40% chance of increasing the duration of 1 random debuff on the target by 1 turn. Not bad. On the A2 is an AoE provoke. Also has a 75% chance when booked of placing a decreased attack debuff for 2 turns on targets who receive the provoke. Very, very solid. and then has a whenever this champion is attacked, heals all allies by 50% of the damage received, and he's getting attacked a lot because he has that AoE provoke. So that's a lot of heals. And then when attacked, he places a leech debuff on the attacker for 2 turns. He can put out a ton of indirect healing vis-a-vis the leech, and of course vis-a-vis his festering dynamo, his first passive. I think that Vogoth is a very good addition to the game. Next up, guys, in the Dark Elves, we have Kaden. Kaden, another kind of new addition to the game. Damage based on defense, a lot of base defense at 1376, an AoE decrease attack on a 3-turn cooldown with 100% land rate, gotta love it, and then has a revive 2 random allies with 50% HP and increased defense on them for 1 turn. This is a great, Favor of the Chamber is a great revival ability in the game, right? Granted, it is random allies, but having the increase a defense with the 50% HP, unlike a lot of revive abilities in the game, actually gives those revive champions a shot at getting back in the fight with the increased defense, the big version, all on a 4-turn cooldown. I really like this champion. He also has a provoke at a 30% chance on his A1, so he's bringing a lot to the table, a great progression champion. Anytime your team is dying, well, put in a champion like Kaden. Another champion that I rely heavily on my free-to-play is Crimson Helm. What a game changer on my free-to-play. Like most provoke champions, she is rather slow at 85 base speed, but decent defense at over 50, not decent, very good defense at over 1500. She has a revive on death and an increased defense on all allies for 2 turns. Granted, it's on a 4-turn cooldown, but still a great ability to have on guard. And then we have a 4-time at random. Each hit has a 95% chance when booked on a 3-turn cooldown of placing a provoke. Places a block damage buff on this champion for 1 turn to help keep her alive, and then a decreased attack on the A1. So Crimson Helm is a very good champion, has an HP in dungeons by 33% as well. Interesting that she has an HP aura. Doesn't it seem like it should be defense? She doesn't even have a lot of HP, but it is what it is. Next up is going to be, well, this is kind of a tough one. There's a few good candidates here, but I'm gonna go with Luria. On the A1, she has a decreased defense, heal reduction, or decreased speed. All the big versions though, so 3 solid debuffs. I like decreased speed or decreased defense better than heal reduction, but still it's 100% heal reduction at least. And then an AoE attack with a freeze. 75% freeze on an AoE is the best, most consistent AoE freeze on an epic champion in the game. And she has a block revival. So really, really good ability. She's fast too at 104. She hits rather hard, just shy of 1500 base attack. And then she has attacks 1 enemy, removes all buffs. Also has a 100% chance of placing a block buffs debuff for 2 turns on a 5-turn cooldown, but Hex hits pretty hard as well. So that is Dark Elves. Night Revenant, guys, miscreated monster. The dude who you see every single one of my intros has a stun, has a decreased defense if the stun is placed, has an AoE stun, AoE shield, as an ally protect, has continuous heals all over himself for 3 turns, and then he has the passive where he puts a fear every time any one of your allies are attacked when he has that ally protect on him. So a lot of CC with the stun and the fear. He has the ally protect, he heals himself, he has the stun, he has a decreased defense. This dude has it all. This dude has it all, man. Miscreated Monster is a beast. This is a very tough one. Sinesha, huge honorable mention. Rector Draft, huge honorable mention, but we gotta give it to Doom Priest. All you gotta know about her is heals all allies by 7.5% of their HP and removes 1 random debuff from them at the start of this champion's turn. Put her in Relentless, boom, turn. Remove debuff, remove debuff, remove debuff. Also has an increased attack for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. But Doom Priest, especially with Doom Tower, Doom Priest has really re-entered the meta. She's one of the OG champs in the game, and she's really better than ever with all that utility off of that passive. Nice to have that all in a passive ability, right? Sepulchral Sentinels, who I gave the 3rd spot to here, guys. You can use her anywhere that you need help progressing. Clan Boss is where she's notably most used, but that doesn't mean she's just good in Clan Boss. Every time per AoE attack, 1 time per AoE attack, she's a 50% chance of blocking all the damage on 1 ally. And then she has an increased defense and block debuffs on all allies for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown, and decreased attack on her A1. She has all the crucial kind of debuffs that you're looking for in a good debuffer, and a lot of support. I shouldn't say all. She has 1, Ash, she has 1 debuff, bro.
I will have you know that I have more talent and more intelligence in my little finger than you do in your entire body.
She has one of the most important debuffs in the game in decreased attack, and then she has a lot of the crucial buffs, increased defense and block debuffs on one skill. So, and then of course the defense in all battles, as I mentioned earlier, very, very good champion overall. Moving on to dwarves. Not a lot of choices, but a lot of good choices here. Grizzle Jarl is my favorite dwarf epic champion personally. Dude, people sleep on this guy. Decreased attack AoE on a 4-turn cooldown that hits pretty hard with decreased target's max HP. Not bad to have, right? Block debuffs and increased defense on a 3-turn cooldown. Ancestral Shield is a very, very good ability. Block debuffs and increased defense, again on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. On the A1 has 100% heal reduction. As you can see, damage is based on defense. He's faster for a defensive-based epic champion at 95. This guy just brings a ton to the table with his kit. I'm a big fan. Rearguard Sergeant has decreased attack. She has decreased defense on her A1, decreased attack on her A2, damage again based on defense, easier to keep her alive, great for faction wars, great for clan boss, great for progression anywhere where you need. Again, ally protect, continuous heal, and both of the most kind of quintessential debuffs in the game in decreased attack and decreased defense at a 50% clip on her A1. Rearguard Sergeant, RGS if you will, was a champion that I leaned on very heavily in kind of the mid game on my main account here. Melga Steelgirdle, a new champion added to the game. She has on her A2 a shield, so a great new shield champion. Also has a continuous heal on a 3-turn cooldown. So you're getting a shield based on her max HP for 2 turns and a continuous heal for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. That's a really, really, really good support ability. And then she revives 2 random allies with a 20% HP, 20% turn meter. Also has a shield for 2 turns equal to 30% of their max HP on a 5-turn. And again, not a bad revival, but compare this to Cadence, and you guys can see why I really like Cadence Revival, you know? 1 less cooldown, I think it's 5 versus a 4, and then we have more HP and increased defense. All we have is kind of a weakish shield based on their max HP. They're probably squishier champions if they're dead. Either way, though, she's a great champion. She has that A2 to come back in, lay that shield, and get that heal off, right? So that is 1, 2, 3 dwarves. And then last but not least, Shadowkin, guys. The Frog, man. The Frog is the #1 epic champion as of this recording in Shadowkin faction. And I don't think it's even close. Has a decreased attack on his A1. On the A2, an AoE provoke. Thank you very much. It is a 50% chance, but the chance does increase by 5% for each debuff on the enemy team. The entire team, not just one champion. Gotta love it. On the 8th, so that can oftentimes bump that all the way up to an AoE 100% provoke on a 3-turn cooldown. Really good. And then has a shield buff equal to 15% of this champion's max HP and an ally protect buff on all allies except this champion's for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. This dude is so good, man. He's next on my list to max out and do a full guide on because this guy's very good. He also heals this champion by 25% of their max HP and places a reflect damage for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. The heal increases by 2.5% for each poison debuff on the enemy team. Thank you very much, Clan Boss. When attacked, has a 50% chance of placing a poison debuff on the attacker for 2 turns. Occurs once per hit. Dude, this guy is next level good, man. Tagari the Frog. I like him. Next up here, now it kind of, in my mind, there's a drop off, but that's a really good champion. Sashi, I hear she's really good. I have her. I have not maxed her yet, but I hear the synergy here is just really good. She has an AoE attack on her A1 with decreased accuracy at a 50% clip. Big version, obviously. On the A2, has a decreased crit rate and a leech on a 2-turn cooldown. 100% chance of landing. And on the A3, has an increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns, then attacks 1 enemy, fills a turn meter of all allies by 20% if this attack is critical on, again, a 3-turn cooldown. So, you know, passive 2, revives a random ally by 30% HP whenever this champion kills an enemy. Also has a 50% chance of placing a fear debuff on all enemies for 1 turn whenever an ally is revived. Really cool champion, right? Maybe I spoke too soon. When you first glance at the kit, you're like, okay, maybe really good. But now upon rereading it for, I think, the 3rd time now, I'm starting to get sold on this champion. What do you guys think? I think she's very versatile. Can really help you out in a lot of different areas, especially with that passive, right? And she brings a lot to the table in a sneaky way with that 2-turn leech, too. And then we're going to go with Fenshi. Now, Fenshi looks really cool. I like these samurai Shadowkin faction. On the A1, decreased speed on 3 hits. So Giant Slayer candidate here for sure. Also has a 3-hitter on a 2-turn cooldown. Each hit has a 75% chance at decreasing the target's turn meter by 15%. So 45% turn meter on a 2-turn cooldown? Nowhere to Run is right. On the A3, on a 3-turn cooldown, attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit places a 5% poison debuff on the target for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. That's really solid. So 5% for 3 turns. Will ignore 10% of the target's defense for each poison debuff on the target. Immediately you're thinking great against clan boss. And then you're thinking, you know, suitable against any boss in the game. So guys, there it is. Those are my most versatile 3 epic champions in every faction in the game. Hopefully you enjoyed this list. Hopefully I didn't ramble on too long in this video. I appreciate you guys. You guys right now watching all the way till the end. It means a lot, guys. Thank you for the support. And as always, take care, guys.